Hello, Twin Flame Collective. This is Angel Aura Divination, and I'm here to give the Twin Flame Collective their end reading for this week, where we talk about the overall energies of the feminine, the overall energies of the masculine, and also the relationship between them. So, first, I'm just going to kind of give a recap of what I saw in the feminine side of the reading. If you want the in depth ideas that I was kind of going over, you can go look for that reading on my channel or look into the description for the link to the feminine's reading, for the link to the masculine's reading as well, because I will also be going over my overall ideas of that as well. The feminine was really focused on karmic energy. She's very open to new relationships right now, and she's kind of been fooling herself a little bit on her path because she's not necessarily open to bridging the gap between her and her twin, you know. She does acknowledge that that's what she's supposed to be doing to a certain extent, but she also understands that the blockage there is partially on her own, or that's what was explored in the reading, is that the blockage here for the feminine not wanting to explore the relationship between her and her masculine is the lack of a desire to bring clarity to a very intuitive relationship, because it's almost kind of feeling like it's not real at times for her still, which was something that we did pick up on last reading, is that the feminine wasn't really open to the possibility of this relationship being real between her and her masculine, ultimately leading to her being in this justice energy where she was very guarded and also kind of exacting karma on her own behalf against what she felt like was the devil, which I thought was very interesting. Because then when we talked about the masculine's energy, he seemed like he was being a very hedonistic individual, when in reality he's focused on his career, he's focused on his material abundance and his own personal journey with that. It was kind of unclear when I talked about it in the reading, but ultimately the masculine right now is also focused on looking towards the feminine, looking towards his soul relationships and trying to understand them a little bit better without giving all of his energy to it. He's still kind of guarded and opening himself up to the idea of a possibility of the relationship between the twin flames, right? The focus for him moving forward is to get grounded in the reality that, he is not really supposed to be an island, especially not if you do consider to have yourself to have a soulmate, to have a twin flame, to have somebody like that in your life, a spiritual union like that in your life. But he still kind of has a constant problem of walking away from relationships out of a fear of not being accepted and not having his emotions be either reciprocated or just understood or accepted in general. I thought it was interesting because when I did the feminine's reading, the bottom of the deck for her was the devil. And then when we started the reading for the masculine, the first card out in his reading, in his half of the spread, was the devil. So I was talking about in the feminine's reading how she kind of saw herself kind of exacting revenge or exacting karma on the masculine, because she saw it as like a negative sexual relationship, which is exactly how the masculine was looking outwardly to others and in his own energy, as somebody who's very hedonistic, somebody who's very much focused on those kind of relationships, somebody who is very much focused on like that passion, a little bit of a player energy. And so I think that she was seeing him fairly accurately, or that she goes into the group of individuals who would see him in this way, even if that's not exactly what he's actually doing, because the masculine seems to be more focused on finances, on materials, on career, on getting grounded, and he thinks about the feminine, and the feminine is the one who's actually in reality focused on all these relationships and trying to enjoy the karmic relationships that she has, while also looking like she's very open spiritually. And I think that's because the feminine is more awoken to the twin flame journey itself. Now, in the relationship, the first card out that we have for the spread is the current goals between you, where you're both at right now. We have the Six of Cups. I think that this is very much you looking into your past life energy and understanding where you've come from, where the journey started for you, and how it's going, right? Looking in, and it's kind of like where you're supposed to be right now in your twin flame journey is kind of understanding that there is something to be offered from this relationship that has already started for you, if you do know who your twin is. and kind of acknowledging that that individual has a very particular resonance even for you, understanding that there is supposed to be this relationship between you on a certain level, whether that's like a divine relationship or not. Well, it's supposed to be like that spiritual aspect to the relationship, but whether that's a romantic relationship or not, that's not really what's being expressed here. It's more about that emotional connection, that deep spiritual connection that you have. And for confirmation, we have the sun. So that's basically saying, yes, that's completely correct. The sun also saying that this is much more about the masculine showing up in the energy as well. The next card out that we have is, like, how to best nurture the energy of where you're supposed to be, and we have the Four of Wands. You need to both of you really need to focus on having a positive environment and also opening up to the possibility of romance if that's what you're interested in when it comes to this spiritual relationship. And if it's not that, then this is also kind of that energy of the Six of Wands that both of you had in your other readings, where there is something that needs to be celebrated here. The Four of Wands can be a wedding card. I think opening up to the possibility of that is partially what's kind of leading you, or kind of is what's going to allow you to even reunite with your twin, if that's what you're interested in doing. We have the Two of Pentacles coming out for that. I think that there's a lot of thought that needs to go into the decision to connect with your twin on any level for most of the individuals that are connecting to this collective reading right now, especially because it's such a deeply connected past life energy in this relationship between the collectives that I'm reading for at this very moment, which is only confirmed by Judgment being here for what it is that you desire here. Both of you desire a resurrection between the relationship that you have. The masculine seems to have walked away, and both of you desire resurrection. Both of you desire that intuitive relationship. Both of you desire that guided, the guidance that would lead to resurrection between you. They're saying without judgment. I think both of you are even kind of focusing on that unconditional love that you're supposed to have between each other, and that ultimately moving forward, you're going to be trying to focus on having that instead of just thinking about it. But the blockage to where you're supposed to be going, and the blockage to the desire that you share, is the Five of Swords. And when I looked at this card, I kind of saw this as the most recent separation, whether that was a separation in the past life, or whether that was a separation in this life for some of you who have connected to your twin before. The most recent separation seems to have been something of an argument or something of a battle that was where there was a clear winner and a clear loser. There was a clear indication of who was walking away victorious and who was walking away burnt. And it kind of seems like the masculine was the one who walked away victorious, especially when you consider the fact that the masculine looks like the devil and the feminine has the devil in the energy of, her relationship to the relationship. She sees herself as somebody who's literally battling the devil, and then the masculine comes out looking just like the devil. So let's get some clarification for that as well. Yes, the masculine's coming through strong in this relationship reading. I think the masculine's awakening moving forward, or he's coming very close to it. We have the Emperor here for the shared desires. It's kind of like the masculine is the one who kind of needs to push this relationship to really occur, which is actually confirmed with the Six of Cups, because the Six of Cups has the little boy giving the cup of flowers to the little girl, right? It's that same vibe. The masculine needs to offer this new beginning or this new opening between the two of them to make it actually occur. Which I saw for this Wheel of the Year Tarot deck, I did see this as the masculine energy, because it's kind of a representation of the horned god, and then we had that confirmed when we have this depiction of the dying god, in the dying and also resurrection god in the Wheel of the Year Tarot as well, being the Emperor. With the blockage, let's get a card out for the blockage. That was a clear, okay. We have the Magician. Interesting to talk about the blockage, and it's like who comes out victorious, and it says the person is basically, the person who is basically saying, and that's what my guides are kind of pushing me to say, is that the person who manifested the most recent reunion is the person who cut it off. Interesting. Really? Okay. Let's get another clarifier, because that's kind of intricate. Like it's kind of a weird concept. Oh, we have strength. Yes, that makes sense, because the masculine had strength in his reading. It's kind of like the masculine was supposed to be the one who was supposed to be a little bit more emotionally open, or was being pushed to be vulnerable in the last reunion, and that's kind of opened him up to really analyze his own emotional state, or his relationship to expressing his emotions to his twin, or just in general in his own relationships, where he needed to kind of understand that he is valid for expressing his emotions, and that going into the future, he can kind of decondition himself from having to block them out, which is actually leading me into the outcome for you in this cycle, in this energy right now. We have the Hanged Man and we have the King of Cups. And underneath the Hanged Man and the King of Cups, we have the Fool. And underneath that, we have the Hierophant. Okay. So I think that there's going to be kind of an opening. I think that the masculine is going to be resurrecting. Maybe that's a big theme for you. Anyway, the masculine is going to be having some kind of awakening to this relationship, to the journey. And really understanding that there is a value in expressing emotion. And also understanding that there is a stagnancy related to the separation, and hanging himself up is not necessarily the same thing as awakening, you know. And with the Fool and the Hierophant coming out on the bottom of the deck, I think that's just an interesting card combination, because I think you're going to be moving. They said that once he actually awakens, it's going to happen very quickly, where you're just going to move into this like deep union. You know, it's kind of like once he awakens to the journey, both of you are going to be stepping very quickly into union for some of you, but also some of you are going to be stepping very quickly into like mastery of the energy, which means that some of you who are genuinely twin flames are going to like literally just be in union, even if it's just spiritual union, where it's not necessarily a relationship. And for confirmation, we have the Knight of we have the Knight of Wands, we have the King of Swords, we have the Three of Swords, and we have the Five of Wands. Okay, there's competition afoot, and the masculine is here to play. This might be related to that karmic energy that I was talking about, where the feminine was actually dealing with karmic energies, and the masculine's kind of showing up with this sword and his wand in hand, kind of prepared for that. And he's ready to kind of compete. But I also kind of see this as a deeper explanation to the way that he's kind of coming forward, with the King of Cups being the outcome. Because the King of Cups is kind of jumping out of the card in this deck. The Universal Tarot, he's kind of jumping out of the card. He's like stepping forward off of his throne almost. He's so passionate about his emotions in that, card. And I think he's going to come through very passionate, but also very guarded, because he's kind of expecting there to be like other masculines in the feminine's energy. And I think he's preparing himself for kind of conflict, but then it's like, when you actually get there, when you actually come into communication, you actually come into union, it's going to be very easy. The Fool, it's going to be very easy, and it's going to move very quickly into the Hierophant energy, which is about union and also about leadership, which is ultimately what the twin flame union is supposed to be about when it comes to society. You are leading yourselves into this new cycle that's ultimately going to be leading a new cycle in humanity, basically. Interesting. So leave a like and a comment if this resonated. I would love to hear from you. Leave a subscribe as well. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks. The other readings are linked below if you are interested in hearing about those as well. And all the decks that I used are going to be linked below as well. That's it. Goodbye.